When the temperatures start going up and the sun starts beating down, you can bet I start looking for a cool, shady spot. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. In today's show, we're going to take a look at plants that feel the same way. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. You know, when that summer heat rolls in and the sun is beating down, I think certain plants have it better off than others. Shade-loving plants can enjoy cool, low-light conditions. They have it made in the shade. Like Hosta, it's a classic. So in today's show, I thought I'd show you how to take containers of Hosta like these and divide them for more plants for your garden. And I thought we'd also take a trip to Holland, where I can show you where many new varieties are developed and grown. There are hundreds of varieties to choose from. And believe it or not, these shade-loving plants are being grown out in the full sun. We'll see how they're getting away with this, plus some extra advice on how to get the biggest, fullest Hosta possible. We'll meet several other shade lovers, including some of my favorites, like the bleeding heart, Columbine, and some gorgeous impatiens. I'll also share with you some shade gardening tips. And once we've worked up an appetite, we'll catch up with Chef Peter Brave, where he's going to show us the secrets to his delicious vinaigrette salad dressing recipe. Now let's get back to the popular Hosta plant. When we come back, we'll meet up with Hank Goyers in Holland for a look at his colossal Hosta crop. So stay with us. Welcome back. Right now, let me take you to Holland, where they're growing a lot more than just tulips and daffodils. The Dutch are also producing a wide range of perennials, such as hostas. I had an opportunity to spend a morning with nurseryman Hank Goyers in a field of young hosta. Hank, as an American, it's fascinating to me to see hosta growing out in the full open fields like this.
Yes, that is possible in Holland, because it's a pity really, because we like the sun, but we don't get too much sun, and that's why we are able to grow them in full sun.
It's interesting how perennials generally have become so popular. I think people are planting many more perennials than they ever have, and hostas certainly lead the pack in popularity.
About 10 or 15 years ago there were some varieties. Now there are so many, so there is a choice for everybody, and there are so many different varieties.
How many different varieties do you grow here on your farm?
We grow about 100 different varieties.
And how many do you produce in a year of individual hosta plants?
That's over 2 million.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
It's a lot of plants.
Yeah, and they go all over the world?
They go all over the world.
I think in the beginning of the hosta craze, everyone was interested in the foliage of the plant. The leaves were so spectacular, but now they're developing other aspects of them.
Yes, we got different varieties, bigger leaved, very small leaved. There are some new hostas with other flower stems.
And maybe larger flowers.
Larger flowers, very nice, wide, new flowers.
With sum and substance, I think it's the color that's so striking, as well as the big leaves.
Yeah, the color is fascinating, of course, especially when they are in the shade. It's a fantastic color. You see it right away, it's really magnificent.
Yeah. I think there's something about all the different varieties of hosta that I like, but I think I lean more toward the gray-leafed ones. Some of the old standbys that I have grown have been elegans and Crossa Regal, two gray varieties that I've used in my garden.
Yes, these are still very popular. Of course, the Zebaldiana elegans is a very old variety, which is still very, very popular because of the gray, strong, leathery leaves. Yeah, and Crossa Regal is one which grows up a little bit upright.
Yeah,
very nice.
Yeah.
More and more people who deal with cut flowers, they grow hosta varieties because you can put it in together with a bouquet of a lot of flowers, and the gray or the bigger leaves are fascinating in the bouquet.
Yeah, so not only is the hosta beautiful in the garden where it creates textural contrast, it also can do the same in a flower arrangement.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Many people are planting hosta in their gardens. What advice would you give them to grow the biggest, fullest plant possible?
The soil is very important. It mustn't be too wet, but it mustn't be too dry. Shade, it's a real shade plant, so put it in shade.
Yeah.
It's getting the best color.
And I found that you have to be patient because often the best plant is 3 to 4 years old.
A hosta needs really to get the right shape about 3 to 4 years when you say, okay, that's it.
Yeah. If you want to grow a big sum and substance like you've grown, how many years old is that plant?
That plant is about 5 years old.
Yeah, amazing.
It's fantastic.
Now let's get out of the sun and back into the shade. For me, when it comes to shade, it's always made sense to use plants with light-colored foliage or variegation, like this variegated bishop's weed. It can be a vigorous ground cover. You can get a similar effect with this variegated ajuga, with the added benefit of a blue flower. And speaking of flowers, if you just can't live without blooms in your shade garden, you might try this interesting plant, the bleeding heart. In just a few years, these young plants will be spectacular. And for blooms throughout the season, I can't imagine my garden without Columbine, the beautiful Foxglove, and the graceful Japanese anemone. The great thing about all of these plants is that they're perennials. They'll come back in the garden year after year. But for them to flourish in shade, you need to make sure that they stay consistently moist. Now, if you're looking for a shade-loving plant that's not only beautiful to look at, but easy to grow, you may want to pick up one of these. We'll take a closer look when we come back. Hi there, welcome back. I know we've been talking a lot about perennials, but I want to mention to you a shrub that I think is outstanding. You can't go wrong with it. This is Virginia Sweetspire. Just look at its gorgeous color. You know, one of the great things about gardening is that no matter what conditions you're faced with, you can always find a plant that'll flourish in that situation. The trick is to find the right plant for the right place. So often nature can be the best teacher. Many times you see ferns growing in shady woodland areas and cactus growing in hot, dry conditions. You see, by looking at the native plants in your area, you can determine what sorts of plants will do well in your garden. Let me give you a good example. This little shrub is called Itea, or Virginia Sweetspire. It's one tough little plant. In its native habitat, it takes low wet conditions and reduced light from competition from other trees. So if you've got an area in your garden where the soil doesn't drain well and you don't get much light, this may be the shrub for you. Virginia Sweetspire can grow as far south as the tip of Florida, up into northern states where winter temperatures don't fall lower than 10 degrees below zero. To me, the most outstanding quality of Virginia Sweetspire is that it's so versatile. You can grow it in a container. Yes, it will thrive in shade, but will also take full sun. And it's the perfect plant for fall color. For an entire month now, it's been showing off with this beautiful foliage. Now, it's also such a great companion to other shade plants. We've seen hosta growing in the nursery fields of Holland. Now let's take a look at hosta in an exceptional backyard garden where hosta is the king. Hosta is now regarded as the #1 most popular perennial in the country. And by the looks of these, it's easy to see why.
And they come in huge sizes, medium sizes, small sizes, even teacup sizes if you're a real connoisseur of teacup plants. The shape, the size, everything is there. And it's easy.
Tom Flammang is a hosta enthusiast of the first order. He's been collecting and growing them for over 15 years in his small woodland garden.
I had a backyard with a lot of sun perennials in it. As my trees matured, I cut down trees. More trees matured, and I had a hard time cutting down my neighbor's trees. So I went in search of plants that grew well in the shade. There are some flowering plants that grow well in the shade. I always use the impatiens. I love the white flowers against the emerald greens and the blue greens. But hosta are really a flower without a flower. They come in a tremendous variety, almost unending variety of shapes, sizes, colors, forms, even flower shapes. People are paying attention. Some hostas are fragrant. So I think as people, yards are maturing the same way. They started a new home, the trees grow up, they have all the shade to deal with. Why struggle when it's so easy to grow a wonderful plant It just creates a tapestry the same way color would create a tapestry in an annual or a perennial garden. If someone complains they have a shady garden, I say, give it to me, give it to me.
You'll fill it with hosta.
Well, hosta, you can fill it with ferns. Ferns are wonderful. I said, you know, and there's other opportunities. A lot of vines actually like the shade. A lot of azaleas like the shade, and if one selects the more gumpo varieties, which grow low and they bloom later, they complement your hosta very nicely. They're fun to have. The hydrangeas are another plant that love the shade. Magnificent architectural plants, magnificent panicular blooms. I don't think you could ask for more, and really they don't grow well in the sun.
No, they're much happier in the shade.
You lose that total opportunity to have a magnificent plant if you want too much sun. So yeah, please, give me your shady backyard. Bring it next to mine. I'll expand a little.
A man who takes lemons and makes lemonade. Coming up, we'll take a look at what's new in my garden. I have some gorgeous impatiens. I can't wait to show you, so don't go away. If you're like me, you love good value. One of the best ways to achieve this in the garden is in the late summer and early fall. Check out the nurseries, because often you can find hostas on sale and you can divide them. It's a very simple thing to do. Just look at this pot of Crossa Regal hosta that I found. I've pulled all the soil away from the root ball, and now I'm ready to divide it. If you look closely, you can see these pale lavender buds emerging at the base of this year's plant. And what I'm going to do is just split this plant down the middle, dividing those buds, like so. Just use an ordinary kitchen knife and split the plant like so. Now I've gone from one plant to two. I like to plant it in groups of 5 to 7, and I particularly like its blue-gray foliage. It produces about 4-foot high flower spikes, and each flower is pale lavender in color. Of course, perennials and shrubs aren't the only plants that make up a beautiful shade garden. We can't forget about colorful annuals. And right at the top of my list is the impatiens. There's such a wide range of them. Starting with the New Guineas, you can find a myriad of color. But the most impressive thing to me about a New Guinea impatiens is if you compare a standard impatiens bloom to the size of a New Guinea. New Guineas are almost 3 to 4 times larger. There are impatiens for everyone, whether you like the blooms large or small. I recently tried a miniature variety called Firefly that's done very well in my garden. When it comes to light, these plants require partial shade. That's ideal. You see, too much sun will cause the leaves to shrink or even burn. If you want to promote lots of blooms like these throughout the summer, it's important to feed them regularly, about every 3 weeks, with an all-purpose liquid fertilizer that's high in phosphorus. That's the middle number. Now, some of the design techniques that I use with impatiens is to use a lot of the same color in one area, whether it's sweeps of color in a bed or in a large low bowl like this. Now, if you'd like to get the color up to eye level, try growing impatiens in hanging baskets like these. Let me point out one more aspect to these New Guinea impatiens before we get off onto something else. The Flower Fields is producing 2 large-size impatiens flowers, Sonic and Supersonic. Wow, what whoppers! And they're ideal for adding sparkle to any shade garden in need of a few blooms. During a visit to a marketplace for new plant introductions, I had a chance to speak with the Flower Fields' Gary Falkenstein, who told me more about producing these large, or should I say extra large, blooms. Gary, New Guinea impatiens have really become popular as a garden flower. What makes the Flower Fields Sonic series so special?
Alan, the Sonics were bred with primarily 2 objectives, 2 major objectives. The first being outside or garden performance, and then for flower size.
Well, you certainly accomplished it with that. Look at the size of these blooms.
Aren't they gorgeous?
Gosh, they look like they're on steroids.
And the unique thing about the New Guinea, the Sonics, is that because we select them on fully exposed outdoor trials, New Guineas, which are traditionally more of a shade plant, can really grow in an exposure that's really quite sunny. Irrigation is the primary thing.
Right, so you can grow this plant in full sun, and as long as you have plenty of moisture in the soil, they'll perform beautifully.
Exactly.
This lavender is really a cold knockout. What I like about it is if you plant it in shade or partial shade, the light color really sparkles.
It does, and in a shade environment especially, this color kind of picks it up and makes it look bigger.
Okay, now let's shift our attention from shade-loving plants to relaxing a little in the shade with something delicious to eat. When we come back, we'll head into the kitchen and learn the secret to a chef's popular vinaigrette salad dressing. So don't go away. There's no question that a fresh green salad is one of the best things for us to eat. These leafy greens are full of vitamins, minerals, and folic acid. When I get a chance, I like to ask chefs for recipes of their favorite salad dressings. Peter Brave makes a popular, simple dressing that brings out the best flavor of the salad greens.
We're going to start off with a little bit of smooth prepared mustard, Dijon style. Go ahead and put about a tablespoon in the bowl. We'll put about a teaspoon, depending on your preference of how strong you want it, of garlic. And then this is my key ingredient. I love the balsamic vinegar. We're going to do about 1/3 cup of balsamic vinegar. We're going to go ahead and whisk this all together. Add a little bit of seasoned salt. Can I get the olive oil? And once again, that's to your choice. If you want a little bit saltier, a little bit less salty, you can just go ahead and decide that yourself. Now I'm going to add 1/3 cup of olive oil also. Now, the thing that's so nice about the balsamic vinegar, whereas you used to use like 1/3 vinegar, 2/3 oil, with this you can use almost equal amounts. So on the recipe, I call for 1/3 cup of the balsamic vinegar and 1/3 cup of the olive oil, and it makes for a much lighter vinaigrette. I'm going to go ahead and get some of that basil that we picked, and then add that to your vinaigrette, and it's ready to go.
This is so easy to make, and it's delicious. It's no wonder it's become a standard favorite in this restaurant. With this salad dressing, the garden never tasted so good. I hope you've enjoyed taking a closer look at some of our most popular shade-loving plants, and that you've been inspired to go out to the nurseries and find some plants that you can divide to fill your garden with even more beauty. Now, we haven't been able to touch on every shade-loving plant in today's show, but I do list a lot more on my website, and I invite you to check those out. That's at pallensmith.com. Until next time, from the garden, I'm Alan Smith.
In this garden I dream of a bed of flowers. Bluebirds sing of the beauty all around us. And every time the sun comes out, I can't help but smile. Oh, no, I can't help but smile.